Spring clean that podcast feed and skip the doom scroll. The Newsworthy gets you caught up on the day's news in less than 15 minutes and gives you some fun conversation starters along the way. It's quick, friendly, and informative. Search The Newsworthy wherever you're listening now and follow or subscribe to The Newsworthy today.
Have you ever found yourself thinking, man, the 90s were awesome? And if you're from the Chicago area, have you ever thought, oh, what I wouldn't do to get back to that point in time, to go to those shows at Metro and Lounge Acts, Thurston's, Avalon, all those clubs back in the day as the Chicago music scene was just exploding. That's the concept behind 90 Days in the 90s, a new book from Andy Fry, going back in time, soaking up all the pop culture, nostalgia, music, the scene of Chicago in the 90s. It's a fiction book focused around a record store owner named Darby. And since the holidays are basically here, it's that time of year. This is a perfect gift for that bibliophile on your list or the music fan on your list. It's 90 Days in the 90s. You can get it on Amazon, obviously. You can also get a signed copy by going to 90daysinthe90s.com.
It's car con carne. Let's eat in the car. It's car con carne. And now here's the star of our show, James Van Alstyne.
Do I sound okay?
You sound better than about 99% of the people who I interviewed. So yes.
Okay.
You probably sound better than me, so well done.
Okay.
You must be an accomplished podcaster.
Mr. Vanderbilt's been very helpful.
Mike Vanderbilt is known for raising everybody's game. Like
yes,
he is the rising tide that lifts all boats, and that's not code.
No.
Okay, so my guest on Car Con Carne for this particular episode, well, by day, he's the new director of the Homewood Arts Council. By night, specifically the night of Saturday, December 10th, he is the person who put together Dedicated, a benefit for the American Diabetes Association. It's happening at Blue Island Beer Company, 13357 Old Western Avenue in Blue Island. He is Chris Castaneda. He's a returning guest. Chris, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, James.
So you're a returning guest, and we're virtual again. Sorry, next time we'll go in the car somewhere and have tacos.
Yeah, no, I'll get you to Heine's Chicken soon enough.
Yes, I never been.
Yeah, my parents' house is across the street, so it's very easy.
So we're here to discuss the diabetes benefit, which is dedicated to your mom, who's sadly no longer with us.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so Dedicated, I mentioned the name, Dedicated, a benefit for the American Diabetes Association. This is a dedication to your late mom. Let's talk about her. Let's give her due. She passed in 2019.
Yes.
Elvira B. Castaneda. She was a nurse technician at South Chicago Community Hospital. She was a longtime resident of the South Deering neighborhood.
Yeah, she's great mom. Did the best she could with the cards that she was dealt. She had myself and my younger brother John Paul, who's 5 years younger than me. Yeah, I mean, she grew up in a house with the three of us, my dad, my brother, and myself, and three stereo systems. Sometimes not always going on at the same time, but sometimes if the mood was right. But yeah, she was very has why I picked the term dedicated. She was dedicated to her job. It was a weird kind of thing when we kind of knew that the window was kind of closing for her. And I just kind of had that moment where you're kind of realizing your time is short with a parent, and you just haven't asked certain questions that you thought there'd be time for. And by late 2018, her conversational skills were pretty limited. She had suffered some what they called mini strokes over the previous years. So you'd have to repeat questions maybe 2 or 3 times to get an answer. And I realized that I never asked her why she chose nursing. And for the years that she was working, 7 to 7 shifts, sometimes 6 days a week. Once my brother and I started grammar school, it was about maybe 5 days a week, unless she picked up like an overtime shift. Never, I have no memory of her ever really complaining much about the job coming home. It always cracked me up when ER started on NBC. She would be home in time to watch ER, and I'd be like, Mom, you just left there. I mean, I get that George Clooney's not at South Chicago, but you just left there. And I guess for her, it was some kind of like just mini escape. But she could have gone on and taken the next step up to become a nurse. But from talking to my dad, it just seemed like she felt like maybe she'd be leaving behind her coworkers who maybe would see her differently as being above them. So, she had a lot of loyalty to her coworkers and to her friends. And so I asked her one day, I said, Mom, why nursing? And I asked her twice, and it took her a little bit. And I can still picture where in the house I asked her at the dinner table. And she simply just said, I liked helping people. And that was it. And that was it for me. And like, that kind of summed it up for me as far as, what she wanted to try to, do for people.
That says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd hear stories, and sometimes I'd be there after school until her shift was done, to get home if my dad was on call elsewhere. But I never saw the crazy times there at the hospital in the emergency room. I only have one vivid memory of her coming home and crying, and my dad actually holding her in the dining room, and I kind of like gave them space, but it was because a baby passed away in the ER. And that's the only memory I have of my mom ever coming home from work and kind of showing emotion or anything of like what the day was like. I'd hear stories about like, someone just stopping by the ER because they can't afford, Tylenol or something like that, or they have a headache or something like that. So she loved what she did. And, she did it for over 30 years. And it was tough for her when she was forced to retire in 2005 because of her health. But, she had it. Probably the last opportunity was when my dad's father was nearing the end of his life in 2007. She got to be a nurse again. So she'd be there, and she would, administer the morphine to him and be at his bedside. And yeah, she was there with him until he passed. And and everything was just natural to her just to do that kind of stuff.
So it's just natural that you, as the son, put together this benefit in her honor. It's just you're helping people.
Yeah, even though we knew the end was coming, it was still pretty rough to accept that it was coming. Sure. We really hoped. I mean, at that time in March of 2019, her birthday was coming up in April, and so once she had her last amputation in December of 2018.
Her last amputation, how many did she go through?
She ended up losing both of her legs below the knees. So after that second one, at Advocate Christ in Oak Lawn, my dad was planning on retiring at the end of 2020, or just at the start of 2020. And we kind of knew things were going to be different when the doctor said, you need to change your plan sooner. And so once we kind of heard that, then instead of like kind of making plans 6 months out or whatever. We were kind of almost like living week to week and hoping, what do we want to do for mom for her birthday? Stuff like that. So, so when everything happened and some time had passed, I had by this point, I had some experience, putting on some shows in Beverly. I did a benefit show at the Hideout for Scott McCoy in 2018, and I knew I wanted to do something music related in her honor.
Did she introduce you to music?
So she and my dad took my brother and I June 2nd, 1995, to go see R.E.M. first night at the Rosemont Horizon.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
The day before my 8th grade graduation. And so I remember when tickets went on sale, and my dad had a friend at the Ticketmaster office at Carson Perry Scott in Cal City, while my dad worked the phone at home. We ended up getting 6 tickets total, which back then was like 75% of the grocery budget, with those pesky $13 Ticketmaster service fees added on. And so she sat with me, and I got to bring 2 of my friends that was in my class, and then my dad and my brother sat in the center, like 200 level area. And that was it. And we were on Mike Mills' side of the stage, and I still remember everything from that night. And
this was probably the last round of the Monster Tour. Is that right?
This was the summer. This was so Bill Berry had just gotten back in probably early May from the aneurysm, so they just restarted the tour. And I just remember I have a mixtape somewhere back here. I actually I wanted to see them again in the fall tour when they played in September at then the New World Music Theater.
Okay, I had it reversed because I remember they did an outdoor show, so I assumed that came first.
They played with Radiohead, and
Yep.
Patti Smith was at that show. And I have a mixtape that says "Saddest Day of My Life. I didn't get to get R.E.M. tickets today because my parents said no, we already saw them." But yeah, she was really great about music with us, with my brother and I obviously, my brother and I got a lot of our musical influence from our dad, who was a big music fan, had a very large music collection, still does. 40 something years ago, he tried naming me Ringo, and my mom said no.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. But once I started going to concerts, she wanted to start going to concerts. So she became kind of like the automatic person that was going to go to shows with us. So, and so, we'd go to see, Cheap Trick at the Taste, or, I remember arguing with my mom leaving the Cheap Trick Taste show in '99 during Auf Wiedersehen, because we had to go catch the train back home. I'm like, we can't leave during this song. She's like, oh yes, we can. So, and then another memory of R.E.M. related, when they played at the World again in '99, that was the year that R.E.M. had started selling tickets through the fan club. And so I said, oh, I'm going to get myself some tickets. I finally got some money, and I got 2 tickets, and I figured, I'll invite a friend. And before I could do that, my mom was like, oh, great, I'll come. And so
I love it.
We sat 12th row center at the show, and every in-between song, she's yelling out for Michael Stipe. And I'm like, Mom, he can't hear you. Oh, yes, he can. And so at the time, I'm sure I was just like, why did my mom come? But looking back at it, I appreciate those memories. R.E.M. ended up being the last band that she got to see live at the United Center in 2008, before her health started to take a turn. And that was like a family meeting in itself, like debating whether or not Mom should be at a stadium show with bad circulation in her legs and stuff like that. But she got through it, and she probably sweated more than the band that night, but she wanted to go. And I think part of it was she wasn't ready to kind of give up those freedoms due to her health. But at the same time, you know, she wanted to see them. So it was just like, well, we can't really say no. And she made it through it. So I'm if anything, I'm glad that was the last one that she got to do with my brother and I. And so there's a lot of R.E.M.
And this explains so much, because there's an R.E.M. component to Dedicated, a benefit for the American Diabetes Association, happening at Blue Island Beer Company on Saturday, December 10th. Explain the R.E.M. stuff you're doing.
So it was two parts. One, I wanted it to be a thank you to my mom and dad. I started playing guitar when I was 14. I was very shy. I didn't very often play in front of my parents. And so with my dad, you know, around, I wanted to at least do this for him. You know, I played at my mom's funeral.
Oh, wow.
Just kind of on the whim. And I did a Jeff Tweedy Golden Smog song, and just did it. And I'm glad I did. But this was just a thank you to them.
That sounds very emotional, just hearing you say that.
It was kind of a kicker because I had a friend pass away this past year, just as we were kind of getting out of the pandemic, and Jeff Tweedy happened to dedicate a song to my friend, and it was the same song that I played to my mom. So that was really cosmically weird, but I wanted to thank them because they were very very supportive, and you know, she never had the conversation with me, you know, going through high school and then into college about, you know, why can't you be a lawyer, or why are you doing this music journalism stuff? Or, you know, she never called it a hobby, and she, you know, she eventually got it. I think she was kind of confused at first because, like, you know, right out of high school, I started working at a record store in Cal City, Hegwis Records, and for my dad, that was my dream. That was his dream job, and he was a radiologist at University of Chicago. But he loved the family discounts that he was now getting through his son. But you know, she never questioned the music that we listened to. If anything, she may have asked us to turn the volume down, but she never told us to, like, turn it off or stop listening to that. So she was always very open-minded, and she let us kind of explore what we were kind of getting into. So that was one part of it. The other part of it was at the time that I thought of the show, I had approached Joe Shanahan at Metro in the fall of 2019, just after the Beverly Art Walk. And Joe came to Beverly, and he saw what we did, and he came to the music stage that I had arranged, and at the Givens Castle on 103rd. And I gave him a call, and I said, hey, I've got this idea. I'd like to do something in memory of my mom. Can we do it at Metro? And he was like, absolutely. And so that got the ball rolling. Then 2020 happened, and everything was just on hold. And part of the REM set was, I also wanted to say thanks to Joe, given the history of REM and Metro. And by that, R.E.M. was the first band to play Metro. Yeah. So in 2020, I was just thinking, oh, you know, it's too bad it's not going to be the 40th anniversary, you know. And then we get to now 2022. So a small scheduling thing happened. It wasn't, you know, anyone serious fault or anything, but unfortunately we weren't able to do the show at Metro anymore. So I was able to bring it to Blue Island. Joe was still very supportive and wanted to help in any way. And so I'm still planning on keeping certain songs in the set as a thank you to him, because if anything, if you told me back in 1995, 94 that one day I'd be collaborating with the owner of Metro, I'd be like, what's Metro? Because I swear to God, James, I didn't even know that all ages shows existed until
That's
like
amazing. That's
98 or something. And that's just because that's when I started going to shows more. And, you know, I kicked myself knowing that I could have probably gone to see Oasis, you know, in 1994 or anyone else. And it's just like, you know, that world hadn't opened up to me yet.
We could have met a long time ago
We could have.
at one of those shows.
Yeah. But so he's been super supportive, and I consider myself lucky to consider him a friend and someone who's got my back. So he's been great at just giving advice. I pitch him ideas about who I can possibly reach out to for this show, and just kind of craft the show. Has my big rock show that I've been wanting to do for, you know, the past 5 years since I've started booking shows.
So what is the REM component? Like, there's an REM tribute set.
Yeah.
Explain.
So I don't want to give the set away too much, but there'll be a little bit representative of that 95 era of that night. I've got one song that I added that kind of reminds me of my mom's sister, who had passed away in I think 2017, just a few years earlier than my mom, and she was she had moved to Kentucky and started a family down there. But it's the one REM song that, you know, I got her son into REM at an early age because I was the dealer. I was pushing the music, and this was the one REM song that had probably the most Southern flavor to it that I remember her liking. So I'm like, okay, I'll put that in the set, and that'll be a good one.
So who's in this band when you talk about playing the set? Is this all like top secret stuff?
No, so I mean it's on the poster, but for the REM half of the set, I've managed to put together Gerald Dowd, who's probably playing right now on stage in space right now, and upset that I'm not there. So he said James Van Alsdale screwed me again.
If I had a nickel.
So I got Gerald on drums, and Gerald's been great. Gerald's been he's someone who's an example of someone that I've been in the same place with over the years, but we just never quite crossed paths until a mutual friend of ours passed away, and then it was just like, oh, it's you, and it's like, oh, it's me. And so he's been super helpful, just from his experience from doing fundraisers and things. Jackie Schimmel from Sunshine Boys will be joining on bass, and then I've asked Rick Rizzo from 11th Dream Day to do some songs.
Which, I mean, I realize what you said about Joe Shanahan. Who'd have ever thought you'd collaborate with Joe? The idea of collaborating with Rick Rizzo, I mean, for me, growing up as a kid in Chicago, hearing Testify, and in fact, the entire Beat album from 11th Dream Day back in the day, that's like going to rock and roll fantasy camp in Chicago.
Yeah, and Rick kind of came into my life through the Benefit for Scott McCoy. He was kind of a last edition. I was looking for a singer, and I was already in communication a lot with Mark Greenberg, who was kind of representing the Wilco side of things that I was doing with them. And I just said, "What about Rick?" so he's been great. It's been really cool. I sent him a video of me playing an R.E.M. song on acoustic guitar, and just saying like, "Hey, does this sound right?" And he was just like, "Oh, I forgot that I'm playing on that one. Give me a second." And like 2 minutes later, he's like, "Oh yeah, I've got this down." so Rick's in it.
Amazing.
Kurt Morrison from Tributosaurus will be part of it. Kurt I met through Matt Spiegel, and I eventually took some guitar lessons with Kurt. When Tributosaurus did a Murmur show at Metro, I forget, like 2015 or 2016. I was always bugging Matt. I'm like, I know these songs. Why didn't you ask me to be? I could have played that song. He's like, oh, you got to talk to Kurt. So I eventually, connected with Kurt, and Kurt's been great and very supportive. Who else we got? Steve Dawson and Diana Christensen will be part of it.
My God.
And that's going to be the one acoustic number. And I have to give credit to Michael Shannon, because the song that we're doing was picked by him. So one of the downsides of everything has been, people's schedules just naturally changed, and with more show opportunities, I'm totally understanding if someone's getting a paid gig, go for it. So I was able to connect with Michael Shannon through Kelly Way at Metro, and turned out she knew my cousin through a movie that my cousin had worked, a horror movie called Chicago Rot that my cousin worked on, and she was part of that, and Small World again. So she connected me with him, and I just said,
this is all such a small world. I had Steve Dawson on the show a little while ago. I've had Michael Shannon on the show. I'm going to record something with Brant McRae from Chicago Rot, I think next month.
Yeah.
Small. Chicago's the biggest small city in the world.
What was great was, like, I pitched some songs to Michael, and he came back to me with like B-sides that I was not expecting, and I got super excited. And so the one song we're doing is the B-side that he had picked, and I was so excited about it. I'm like, I totally understand you can't be part of it anymore, but we're going to keep the song in, because it's been like, you would not expect to hear this particular song live. And so Steve and Diane graciously were happy to step in. And who else? In podcast world, Justin Gerber, who is part of the Halloweenies podcast with Chicago's Best Bartender, according to the Chicago Reader for 2021. And that was a connection there. And so I knew he was an R.E.M. fan, so I said, "Okay, you want to be Michael Stipe for a night? So let's do it." And so there's a good group of people. Josh Cantor from the Red Sox, the organist, will be coming in, and he's been awesome too. Like, I am so appreciative for everyone, but the fact that he's traveling that far just for this show means a lot. But for a bulk of everybody who have kind of stuck it out for 2 years of just like, hey, and being really patient with me, like, hey, do we want to wait another year? Hey, do we want to wait another year till vaccines come out and stuff like that? And everyone was just like, yeah. And, I didn't lose too many people. Some folks, like, I can't argue when Kelly Hogan tells me, she's got to go on tour with Mavis Staples. I can't be mad at that.
Nope.
But at the same time, I've having been in my position and kind of seen the effect of the past 2 years, it's like, go do your gig. Like, don't worry. I appreciate that, you said yes, but if you got a gig, go get your gig, and we'll be thinking about you. But I've been from everybody that I've approached, I've been very humbled, and I can't express just the thanks that folks have just stepped up just to say yes. None of these people have ever met my mom, but my mom probably at some point has heard their music in our house, or has heard me talk about them when I started interviewing people or coming home from shows. That's probably one of the things I kind of miss. If I could have something back, she would get pretty bad insomnia from the various medications that she was on. And sometimes she could go to bed okay, and then just some nights she'd get up and I'd be coming home from a show and she would be sitting in the dark in the kitchen at the kitchen table, just kind of trying to wait to get tired.
Oh, man.
And I got used to this. And so we just talk about the show that I just saw. And I tell, yeah, they played this, or I went there, and so-and-so's got a new album. So if she wasn't at the dinner table, I might find her sitting on the floor because her balance can get off. And so in the middle of the night, she might be trying to go from her bedroom to the dinner table. And she figured out a way. I have to give her credit for this. She figured out a way how to put her back up against the wall and allow herself to slide down so not to collapse on the floor or against. Because why? She didn't want to wake up my dad. And so I'd get home and be like, Mom, how long have you been sitting on the floor? And her usual response was, oh, I'm just hanging out with the cat. Or she'd be like, I knew you'd be home soon. So I miss little stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So the R.E.M. set, the R.E.M. tribute, that sounds amazing. And it's truly an all-star cast for that. Also, there's another band playing at this event dedicated to benefit for the American Diabetes Association, Sonic 45.
Yeah. So I had to jog my memory about this. So I attended a talk, an interview talk that Mark Caro was doing at Space with Len Kasper.
I just had coffee. I had coffee with Mark Caro 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Everyone you mentioned, like, this is such a small world.
Yeah. And so I thought, okay, I'll go check this out. And I was mostly going just because if it's something with Matt Spiegel or Dog Julin, whom I've known for forever almost now, I like to try to go and just kind of show support. So I went not knowing much about Len Kasper himself, or knowing that he even played bass and stuff. So there was a brief interview with Len, and then the band came out and performed, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And I recognized Gerald, I recognized Liam. I think Steve Frisbee might have been there that night. So it was just like everyone that I've seen over the past 15 years on stage with this baseball guy that, being a Sox fan, I'm not listening to at that time, but I was like, this is cool. This is great. And so I actually approached Dog after the show, and I said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing for my mom, and I'd love it if you guys were the house band, the band. And so the next day I emailed Len, whom I'd had some contact with. I tried to get him involved in the benefit for Scott McCoy, and there was just a scheduling thing. But so we had kind of been in touch, and I told him about the show and my idea, and he was very flattered and talked to the rest of the band, and they were just like, yes. And it was just like, okay, then I guess we're going to do a show. And he's been great too. Obviously with our schedules and just the way the past 2 years have been, I haven't been able to see him too often in person, but he's really excited. The whole band's excited about coming to the South Side to do this. I'm pretty sure this will be the band's first South Side appearance. Dog and Matt have been down here before, but not the full band.
I've seen Doug perform at Blue Island Beer Company.
We were there. I was there with you.
That's right.
Once again, yeah. That
was my first show back post-pandemic. That was my first live music.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm very, very lucky with all the musicians that have agreed to be part of this. And one thing I should mention. So I picked the title Dedicated off of Nicholas Tremulous, song. For the longest time, any summer barbecue in past years, my dad's bound to tell me the story about how he and my mom went to see Nicholas Tremeless in concert, probably in like 87 at the Riv, and how they met Nick after the show and he autographed a beer coaster for my mom. So I thought, and I would, when Nick got COVID and then his son passed away, I had the opportunity through the Beverly Area Arts Alliance. We did some benefit shows for him to raise some money for the GoFundMe that was going on at that time. And so when this show came up, I was just like, I have to ask him. Like, there's no reason why I shouldn't. Like, I have to ask him. So I told him the story, and my dad still has the beer coaster. So I sent him a photo of the beer coaster. It was a Miller Lite beer coaster. And I said, I just basically said it would really mean a lot if you can be part of this. And so Nick will perform the song as sort of the midway point between the Sonic 45 set and the R.E.M set. And then I asked him, if he can sing on the finale of the show. So at my mom's funeral, my dad is not one on speeches. I was the English major, and so, but his language has always been music. And so at her funeral, he ended up reading the song lyrics to Maybe I'm Amazed by McCartney. So I asked Nick, I said, hey, has a little tip to my dad and to my mom, would you play Maybe I'm Amazed? And I got his phone number from Susan Voles from Poi Dog, and I called him. And this was just before the pandemic. And it turned out that he was at his classroom at Columbia, but I didn't know this until I said, I told him the whole story. I said, could you do Maybe I'm Amazed on piano? And he's like, yeah, I think so. Give me a second. And then I hear a pause. I'm like, what's going on? And then in the background, I start hearing him on a piano.
No.
Playing and I'm like, oh, he's at school.
That's amazing.
And so he did that. And then he came back to the phone. He's like, oh yeah, I could do it. So that's going to be, the finale. Yeah.
He workshopped it while you were on the phone with him.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of, a lot of cool moments over the past 2 years as I've tried to keep this together. And I'm super appreciative of everyone that's kind of stuck with me through this.
It's a tremendous event. Again, it's happening December 10th at Blue Island Beer Company, which is, we haven't even cracked the beer. We haven't even cracked the surface of how great Blue Island Beer Company is. And their menu of beers is fantastic. And what a comfortable place to go. And their live music space in the back is awesome.
Yeah, we'll be in the back room, and very thankful to them too, because Alan Cromwell stepped up, and the date just happened to be open still when I needed to move the show. And it was cool with Shanahan, and Alan was more than happy to help out, and so they've been great. They're looking forward to it, and I'm just hoping that we fill the room up so they get some beer flowing, and just have a nice night out on Old Western Avenue, and then take the party down to Rock Island Public House afterwards, and end the night.
Play some pinball and be served by the best bartender in the city of Chicago, as voted by the readers of the
and
Chicago
who's also
Reader.
who's also part of the lineup. He will be playing some R.E.M songs with me. So
that's fantastic. That is fantastic.
So have you heard my story about how we met?
No.
So when the pandemic hit, me with the Alliance, we're trying to figure out what programming we can still try to do. So we come up with, let's try to do these backyard shows. And as I'm trying to like figure out how to do these, I keep hearing the name Mike Vanderbilt popping up, and he starts showing up in my Twitter feed, and all this business about, drive-in at the Rock Island Public House and all this other stuff, and Vanderbilt this, Vanderbilt that. And finally I was just like, who the hell is this Vanderbilt? So I go to his Twitter page and I see his photo, and instantly I'm like, oh my God, that's the guy who stood behind me at the Guided by Voices show in 2003 at the Abbey, who wouldn't shut the hell up and was wearing sunglasses.
No way. And that tracks. That totally tracks.
I told this story and everyone's just like, yeah, that sounds like him. Yeah. So a year ago or so, I finally like, okay, I finally have to go see a movie at this bar.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to go see Transformers, the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards he was there and we're both masked. And he sees me walk in and I've got a Transformers t-shirt, and he's like, oh, did you enjoy the movie? I'm like, yeah, I did. And I got close to the bar. I'm like, yeah, this is really cool. Hey, I got a story for you. And I started to, I'm like asking, like, did you by chance see Guided by Voices at the Abbey in 2003? And he kind of got quiet. He's like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, you stood behind me talking the whole time. And I never in my life wanted to destroy someone in person. I'm a pretty patient guy, so it takes a lot to really take me to that edge. And he closes his eyes, he puts his head down, and he looks back up to me. He's like, I'm so sorry. Was it the Saturday or Sunday show?
Oh my God.
I said, I would not have gone to a Sunday Guided by Voices show. He's like, okay, good. I was worse on Sunday.
And there,
but according to Mike, he just happened to know the lyrics better than me that night. That's why he was talking so much.
Oh my God. And that's how you met.
And that's how we met. So yeah. That's so amazing. Again, small world, this music community.
It really is. All right. So this benefit's happening again. It's on a Saturday night. We wouldn't go on a Sunday night, a Saturday night at Blue Island Beer Company. The one thing we really haven't talked about, Chris, is diabetes. We talked about the health effects it had on your mom, but this is a fundraiser. I mean, this is a benefit to help the American Diabetes Association. Talk a little bit, if you can, about that.
Yeah. So, we were lucky in that my dad, my brother, and I could help out my mom as much as we could, as far as getting to her to like dialysis, getting to doctor's appointments, especially once she wasn't able to drive. We're also lucky that we, on the Southeast side, there's still a good portion of family living, so they were able to step in. But just seeing firsthand that world of going to a dialysis center, and it's not surprising that more and more you're seeing dialysis centers popping up in different neighborhoods. They've popped up a lot in my neighborhood, since it's a big, that and heart disease are two big things in the Southeast side area. Whether or not that has anything to do with the environment that we pretty much grew up in. I grew up in a steel mill neighborhood that was no longer a steel mill. So things like making sure that folks have proper transportation options if needed, and we tried to do that a few times. And unfortunately, sometimes because my mom started to show signs of dementia, if her assigned driver showed up, she may or may not tell the driver, "Oh, my boys are going to come pick me up," or "My husband's coming," and then we're wondering why mom isn't home yet, and it's like, "Oh, she's still there." So there are things that can get difficult in terms of just getting access to things like that, and also it's an interesting mini world in the lobby of a dialysis center when you're kind of one of the regulars, and when you notice that another regular hasn't shown up and hasn't shown up for a couple of sessions, you they all start talking, and there's I'd hear stories from my mom about, like, well, so and so over there supposedly got a new kidney and it didn't work out or whatever, and so it became like a little support group in kind of a way. She was
Sure.
She was 64 when she passed, and so she had dialysis or diabetes really started kicking over the past 15 years or so. So she was kind of around people who were older than her, and she just didn't see herself like being part of that group, but then she was, and just the reason we thought about the ADA simply just because there is still research going on. I am diabetic. I'm in a slightly better place than my mom. So my mom had what was called gestational diabetes when my brother was born in 1985, but then that cleared away. But then, I don't think she really thought much of it after that, but it eventually came back. And when she had a stroke in 2004 on Thanksgiving, that's when we started finding out that it had gotten a more aggressive than in the past 10 years or something. So I've been better about taking care of myself in certain years, and I just consistency. It's not easy trying to change habits, and
Sure.
So I'm stubborn about that sometimes, and I get that from my mom. I admit that. But when I told her about it, that I had found out, she was just like, "You'll be fine." And it's just like, by this, she might have just had one amputation already, and so I'm trying, but I've seen how the damages of the disease are. It does eat you away. I was there with my mom for her, what turned out to be her first amputation, standing next to her when the doctor asked her, "Can you please straighten your leg?" And that was the moment where, like, if she can, she gets to save the leg. And if she can't, what happens is the doctor pulls out a Sharpie and starts drawing lines of where it's going to happen. And
oh my God,
I was standing there just like, and I was just begging her. I'm like, "Mom, please straighten.
Yeah.
Show him that you can straighten your legs. Show him." But she just couldn't. And so, she never complained for everything that she went through. She never said, "Why me?" I'm sure she went through different phases of depression about it. But at the end of the day, she was still mom, and that person was still in there, even though they were she was just physically getting beat up. What started as like this year I'm not going to go to, this year I'm not going to, be staying at the hospital for half a month. And then the next year would be like, well, this year I'm going to try not to be in the hospital for 2 months, and, stuff like that. So, there is some, people can educate themselves more a little bit on kidney donors, and that's something in my neighborhood that I think within the Mexican community, sometimes there's just not a full understanding of it, and there's a little bit of fear to it, because what if something goes wrong, or
Right.
there's that in the back of your mind. But the ADA's supporting good research, and especially the ADA in Illinois is putting those funds to try to improve treatment. I'm probably the beneficiary of 10 years worth of research, and I'm probably taking medication that's probably better for me than what my mom was probably taking
Sure.
10 years ago. So and I know my wife is going to see this, and she's going to use this video whenever I reach for like a donut or something. So I am trying. It is difficult. I have a history of this in my family. I have an uncle who is an amputee. My wife's uncle is actually the beneficiary of a kidney transplant.
Oh, wow.
And life has been good for him. And I have another uncle who's had some amputation. So, between that and heart disease, and the one thing I wish I had more of is probably my dad's arthritis at this point. I'd rather just be dealing with that.
Right.
So, but yeah, the ADA has been when I approached them about this, they were very supportive. And so, I can't, dish out too many facts. I can kind of just give what my personal experience has been as far as watching the disease over a couple of years. And, maybe $1 raised from this might do something for research. I don't know, but if we can help, provide assistance to a family who needs to get a family member to dialysis, or have a proper home care or something like that, I'll try to do whatever I can. So
that's it. That's the bottom line. All right, Chris, again, benefit for the American Diabetes Association. It is called Dedicated for all the reasons you spelled out. If you're a fan of supporting a good cause, if you're a fan of beer, if you're a fan of R.E.M, a fan of live music, a fan of Chris Castaneda, a fan of just supporting family and what family's influence can be and mean, this is the event, and it's happening on December 10th. And I really appreciate you kind of giving all the backstory, talking about your mom so openly and caringly. This is fascinating. Thank you for doing this.
No, and I appreciate it. And like I said, it's funny who you run into through this community. And I sent you a little something, and who knew 19 years later we'd be here talking. You're looking confused, but I was able to find the polio article.
Get out of here.
Yeah, May 30th, 2003.
I don't even remember doing this. I don't. Oh my God! So it's me, Chris Payne, and Richard Milne. Oh, you wrote the article.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh Jesus!
So
I don't remember this.
I've got you somewhere on a cassette tape.
That's crazy.
I don't think it's blackmail worthy, but
oh my God, that's crazy. Oh, and it's blurry. I can't even read it.
Yeah, even better.
Wow.
Cover up my college writing years. Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, thank you, Chris.
No, thank you, James. I appreciate it.